Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel, and in today's review I'm going to be taking a look at the newly released ToyWorld's Tactics Waistcoat Freedom Leader. Now this is the standard edition version. I do believe that the deluxe version does in fact come with a electronic display base as well as some blast effects, but this for me was one of my most anticipated third-party figures, as this has been in the making now for I believe around 18 months. I do believe that this was teased around about January last year, so we have had to wait quite a significant amount of time. And talking about wait, if you are in the market for picking this figure up, you can purchase him right now over at ShowZ store. All of the links for that will be down in the description box below, but I do believe that ShowZ does have a few different purchasing options. This figure is currently in stock at ShowZ with an express shipping option, or there is an option for you to actually get the normal shipping version. However, I do believe that is currently still on pre-order, and of course there is a pre-order for the deluxe edition version if you wish to have that display base. For me, I was more than happy to take a look at this figure without the display base, as I always find them to be rather clunky, especially when they take up a considerable amount of shelf space. So taking a look very quickly at the packaging, this piece of artwork is the only piece of artwork that is featured on all sides of the box, which is really surprising. I did expect them to perhaps have some promotional shots and some product shots of the figure on the back, but nope, this is the box art that we have all the way around the packaging, and I've got to say that it definitely does stand out. We've got a fantastic image of Freedom Leader, aka Optimus Prime, towards the side of the packaging, Tactics Waistcoat Standard Edition, and then the Tactics Waistcoat at the top. I'm really confused as to why they decided to change the name. I'm definitely sure that he was originally referred to by ToyWorld as the Freedom Leader, but nevertheless that just about wraps it up for the box. Let's take a look at the figure himself. So here we have the Freedom Leader opened up and out of his packaging, and you can see that this figure comes with an enormous magnitude of different accessories. Now I will start off the review by saying that at the moment I do have Optimus Prime in his Earth configuration, as that is how you'll have to have him in order to transform him. Some of the pieces such as the smokestack sections just will not work with the actual vehicle mode of Optimus, so you will have to display him in his Earth mode for you to have full access to the truck mode, although we only ever see Optimus in vehicle mode when he's on Earth, so for me it makes perfect sense. But you can see that we do get 3 pairs of tyres for you to exchange them for when we get into robot mode. We also do get these plate discs here, which are really reminiscent to me of the Batman emblem, but these are definitely something that we see within the Bumblebee movie when Optimus is on Cybertron. And then we get these more alien Cybertronian smokestacks here, which just pop off really easily. I'll show you how you can in fact add some of these additional components when we do get him into robot mode. We also get a pair of shoulder pieces as well as some of the forearm guards for you to actually swap out. These are actually not so different to the ones that he actually has when in Earth form, so I do think that these perhaps could have been something that they could have skipped out on. Perhaps it would have brought the price down of the figure. We also do get an extra head. Now this, from what I can gather, is designed to go with the DLX-30 Optimus Prime, which I'll also demonstrate in this review. We get a shield here which splits into 2 components, that being 2 separate axes. We get 2 of these cargo sections here, which are great dioramic pieces for you to actually display this figure with, and they do in fact store the majority of the accessories, especially the smaller ones, so that is great to see. We get a pair of non-articulated pistol holding hands. We get 4 blasters, so 2 of these smaller pistols here and here. Once again, I'll take a closer look at these when we get into robot mode. This absolutely huge, almost sniper rifle, and then of course Optimus Prime's signature gun. So I do believe that just about wraps everything up for the accessories. Once again, the majority of these I'll take a closer look when we get him into his robot mode. So let's take a more detailed look at the truck mode. And so here he is, the main man himself, the ToyWorld Freedom Leader, fully transformed up into his truck mode. Now I'm not a car enthusiast, nor am I 100% familiar with the actual truck that we see towards the final act of the Bumblebee movie, but I've got to say that I think ToyWorld have done a great job in definitely capturing the essence of what we saw towards that final act. You can see here that this is definitely very G1 inspired, and I think that they've done a great job in terms of the overall proportions. If we actually take a look here at the front of the truck, there is some splendid paintwork here with all of the rusty paint, and some of these pieces here are in fact alloy. So this section here is actually alloy, as well as this piece here. These ones are just plastic, but I really do like how this does match up in terms of the colour. We've also got some smaller details such as the window wipers and the various nuts and bolts that go throughout the figure. I'll just give you a side profile look of him. You can once again see the fantastic weathering that they've managed to apply, and then actually on the hubcaps, very cool. All of the mechanical detailing looks absolutely splendid. Personally, I think that if I had any major criticisms with this figure within vehicle mode, it's definitely that I do think ToyWorld skimped out slightly on the rear end of the figure. The legs definitely don't have as much engineering in them as the whole front of the truck does, which is a slight shame, and you can see that it is looking slightly less pleasant than the front of the vehicle, specifically when you take a look at how the feet just hang out on the back. They can't move up nor compress in any more than what we can see here, so that definitely is a slight shame, and I don't believe that he can in fact hold any form of trailer, at least released by Hasbro, as these here are just way too big for any of their Masterpiece Hasbro figure trailers. And this figure is massive as well, so they definitely probably wouldn't even scale. But just turning to the back, you can see that they've tried to give us the rear lights of the vehicle mode here in an orange and red plastic. And then just another side view profile. I do have a slight tolerance issue with this side. I cannot for the life of me get this piece here to actually peg into that tab. The other side is no problem whatsoever, so I do think that it perhaps is just a tolerance issue. But for the most part, a fantastic looking truck. All of the tyres are in fact made out of rubber, or at least a very pliable plastic, so they definitely do give you a very premium feel when handling this, and this does have quite a significant amount of weight as well due to how much alloy pieces there are. I mean, just check out the detailing here on these smokestacks. Absolutely fantastic. Truly, truly incredible. I think that this is by far one of ToyWorld's best pieces to date. After waiting as long as we did, it definitely had to live up to some sort of expectation, and believe me, in my opinion, I almost believe that it surpassed my expectations, and that this is probably my favourite third-party figure to date. In terms of rolling, it rolls incredibly well. You can see very smooth. All of the wheels do in fact rotate as well, which is great. No clearance issues on these whatsoever, and the rubbery feel really does make him roll incredibly smoothly. Just a fantastic looking piece. Even in the vehicle mode, which is probably the least interesting out of the modes, I just think that they've done such a splendid job on this particular release. For a quick size comparison, here we have the new ToyWorld Freedom Leader compared next to the Wei Zhang version of the Evasion Mode Optimus, and you can see that the Evasion Mode Optimus is actually quite a bit taller in truck mode than this latest entry by ToyWorld. And then just showcasing you the side perspective, you can definitely see that whilst the Wei Zhang version might be slightly taller, the ToyWorld version is definitely a lot longer and feels incredibly more substantial than the Wei Zhang Evasion Mode Optimus. So with everything wrapped up now for vehicle mode, let's waste no time and get this bad boy transformed up into his robot mode. To begin the process, you just want to collapse these wind mirrors in just like this. We can then come to this section here and hinge this one out. We can then also rotate to the side and repeat the exact same process. Pull this section down, lift this piece upwards, rotate around to the side and repeat the same process. Lift this section out and then pull this piece upwards. You can then take this section here and also hinge that out to the sides, so we can repeat the same process here. Now what we can actually do is come to this section and pop this piece out, just showing you how it should tab in on the other side. It does tab in really securely on this side, so it is a shame definitely that it doesn't tab in as well. But just pull this down and then we can take this and lift all of this up. We can then turn our attention now to these gas canisters. We're going to want to unpeg those and pull this section down, and try your best not to rub. If there is some clearance issues on this figure, which is slightly unfortunate, prise this open over the top and collapse that down, and repeat the same process here for this side. So just untab this section here and just fold this section up and fold it inwards. We can then take this here, lift this section out, lift this section out as well. Come to these legs now and turn it over to the underside, and you're going to want to actually get your thumb in here and lift this out. You're going to want to repeat the exact same process. You actually lift this piece over a blue tab underneath, so lift that up, and then we can just split the legs just like this. Rotate around now to the back and fold this die cast piece down. Fold this section back up on both sides, snap that into place, bring this piece down now and elongate this, and just align this up with the foot. Repeat the same process here for this side, so fold this section out and just pull this down and tab that into place. We can then now take the top of the foot, rotate this up and tab that into place. You can see there is a tab and a slot here, so just tab that into place and then rotate the feet around on some very squeaky but rather stiff joints. Then bring this whole assembly now to the front, lift these sections up if they have fallen down, take this piece here, pull it out ever so slightly, rotate it around and then compress it up against the body and then collapse this piece back down. Repeat the same process here, so just pull this out and then rotate this around, snap that into place and collapse this piece down. And that is the entire lower region of this figure now fully completed. Coming now to the top of the figure, as I stated, the lower section is definitely a lot more simpler than this, although this isn't too difficult either. It's mainly just a matter of moving certain pieces out of the way in order to avoid breaking them. We're going to want to come to this section here now and push this section of the smokestack out. Quite honestly, I would recommend actually removing these, as it just prevents you from accidentally putting too much pressure on these, and they are designed to be removed anyway, so why create more hassle for yourself if you don't have to? So for me, I tend to remove them. However, you can completely transform this figure with these still attached. Now what you're going to do is take this piece here and lift this upwards, and then now what you'll want to do is try and get your fingers in between this piece and just untab it so that it pulls away from this whole section here. I would recommend leaving it like this, as if you peg it in now, you're going to create more clearance issues for yourself than you actually need to. Come to these pieces here and collapse these in and then snap those down into place. Repeat the same process here, just collapse those in and leave those sitting flush. We can then come to these arms and just wiggle these out, just like so, and repeat the same process here for this side. So just wiggle this section outwards, and then with this section here you're just going to want to gently pry these apart. We can then take this section here and just lift this whole section upwards, pull this forwards, and then this section here will then collapse back down. Repeat the same process here, so move this out of the way, pull this section down and then push this piece up, and you can see that there is a small tab there that will plug into the slot, so just snap that firmly into place. And then here we can repeat the exact same process. Take these very small pieces here and just collapse those, and repeat the exact same process here for this side. Now we can just take these pieces and clip those together, come around now to the front and bring this and attach that and push these two pieces together. So repeat the same process here. Just swivel this section down and tab those together. They just both swivel so that one layer is behind the other, and then come now to this whole top assembly and you just want to gently pry this all up. Although I have to admit you do have to apply quite a significant amount of force. Just lift that whole section upwards, rotate around now to the back, and then you're going to want to pull this section away from the main body. Now for me this is quite difficult to do, but just pull these two sections out, and then this panel here will collapse down. Bring these down, that will collapse inwards. We're then going to want to rotate now around to the front, and with this is actually where things get slightly more complex. So I would recommend bringing this section down ever so slightly, and here is really where we have some terrible clearance issues. You're going to want to pull these doors out, and then you're going to want to take this section here and rotate it in a way without bumping into anything, and it can be so difficult to do, but just rotate this around and we can see various different sections here. These are going to want to collapse over the top. I can just get this right over that, we should be good to go, and just clip that into place. We can now take these sections here and just rotate these backwards and then collapse these in upon themselves, and you can see that everything now is slowly starting to take shape. Angling the camera so you can get a better perspective, you're going to want to hinge this section here forwards and then hinge this one over the top, and then this here will hinge, and now you can bring all of this over. So just bring and lift this whole section over and then collapse this section down. Now ultimately what you want to do here is get this white section underneath where the front of Optimus's chest is. So I recommend just compressing this and then shooting this down, and you can see here that it will spring down once we get the other door in. Just compress these here, snap that into place, realign that. We can then turn our attention now to the back of the figure, and believe me when I say that they definitely thought about the back of this particular release. You're going to want to pull out these small pieces on both sides, and then here, you're just going to want to come to this piece, and it will actually extend, although it is incredibly difficult to actually get this piece here to pull out. But once that's pulled out, we can then tuck this under, and this should just fold under there. Fold that in, and then we can compress these, and then these tabs will slide under into this section. So clip all of this together, collapse these pieces down, collapse the back down, come to this back butt plate and just snap that into place, securing all that into place. So we've got the front done, we've got the back done. Now we can begin to work on the arms, bringing in the pieces that I removed earlier on. Very simplistic to re-implement these. You just want to tab those onto the side and collapse those in. I will remove them very shortly just to show you how he actually looks when he's in his Cybertronian form. And then take the other one here, rotate this one and tab that into place. And you may need to rotate the smokestack as this does swivel around before when we get him transformed up into vehicle mode. We can then come to this piece, collapse this on the side of the arm, repeat the same process here, and then fold out the hand, which can be very difficult to do, and they are more than likely going to pop off, only held on by very small ball joints. Pop that out, and then take this panel layer here and collapse that in, and then repeat the same process here for this side. This one come out a lot easier, and then take this panel here, launch that back, then take the fist, snap that into place, and pow! Here we have the ToyWorld Freedom Leader fully transformed up into his robot mode, and I've got to say, looking absolutely astounding. You can even tell just by looking at the front of this figure how movie accurate ToyWorld have managed to replicate that Bumblebee movie Optimus Prime design. I'll just give you a very quick 360 before we swap out some of the Earth mode pieces for the Cybertronian pieces. A really streamlined side view profile, literally next to no back kibble whatsoever. ToyWorld definitely are giving Unique Toys a run for their money. The level of detail into this figure is truly amazing. It's fantastic and just mesmerizing for me to think that this can even transform. Truly a masterpiece in my eyes. Kicking things off, I'll start with the removal of the smokestacks. So you simply just want to unpeg the small slot on this smokestack from the arm. We can then bring in the Cybertronian piece, and this here tabs in incredibly securely, and you can see it's just ever slightly more alien in design, and it is a lot more flatter than the rather cylindrical section that we have on the Earth mode smokestack. We can then come to this piece here, and it just simply pegs off, and then bringing in the alien version. This once again is just slightly more elegant than the actual Earth mode version. So just to give you a comparison, this is the Earth mode side, and this here is the alien side. Repeat the same process here for this side. So pop this one off, and then pop this one back on, pop this one off, and then pop this one on as well. In order to remove this side, I actually don't necessarily like doing this as it does require quite a significant amount of force, but you simply just want to pop this one off, and it's a lot difficult and a lot harder than some of the other pieces. And then just align this one and snap that in and peg this in. So you can see that this is definitely a lot more blue in contrast to the more mechanical looking version for the Earth version. And then rotating around to the side and repeat the exact same process. Let's just get rid of that. And then this one should just pop over the top and snap that one into place. And then swapping out some of the Earth mode wheels and tyres for the Cybertronian versions. Very simplistic. Just remove the tyres. They are made out of very rubbery plastic, and then we replace them with a more sleeker version without the grips in them. And then these just go straight over the top. I actually do prefer the look of these over the Earth version. So just pop that one in, and then we take these discs. These are very difficult to get back out, but these just clip into place. And repeat it for this side. And you can see what I was talking about earlier. These definitely do look as if they've taken inspiration from Batman. They definitely do look like the bat symbol. But nevertheless, this is the Cybertronian look we saw for Optimus. And then there is also a pair of wheels actually inside the chest. However, seeing as you don't see them in robot mode, I'm not going to swap those out. They are actually buried deep within all of this transformation. So if you wish to have all of it swapped out, even though you don't see them, I would recommend doing that during the transformation. Starting off here though with the details of the figure, you can see that the face sculpt truly is something to behold. All of the mechanical detailing and the sculpted in panel lines for the mouth guard truly look accurate and faithful to the film. We've got some splendid paint application of a darker silver for the crest and a lighter silver here for the mouth guard. We've even got a more darker gunmetal where the eyes are, and the eyes are actually painted in what I believe is a metallic plastic, and this figure also has an electronic function. So the mouth guard here is able to move to replicate what we see in the movie. So if Optimus is giving his commands to Bumblebee, "You must travel to Earth," you can definitely replicate that here. However, if you take the center of it and actually lift it up, it will trigger a button, which can sometimes not work, but if you push it hard enough, you can see that it will trigger an LED function to illuminate those eyes, really bringing this figure to life. And I think that that looks splendid and truly masterpiece grade in my opinion. And then to switch them off, it's just lifting the mouth guard back up until it decides to turn itself off. Taking a look at a side view profile, once again, the detail is phenomenal. We've got various different scuffs all across the figure. Really reminds me of the paint detailing and the weathering effect that 3A and 3.0 do put on their figures. And you can see here, we've even got some additional details here of these pieces, which they didn't have to include. These are solely here for movie accuracy purposes. And you can see the Cybertronian smokestacks, the white paint applications with the scuffage and the weathering effect. All of this just looks fantastic. The very reflective front windows, or the chest of Optimus Prime as well. And in here as well, we've got all of that splendid mechanical detailing. And you can also see it here for the arms. This whole section here is die cast, as well as this piece. All this is made out of an alloy material, so it definitely is very durable. Once again, very reminiscent to that of the 3.0 DLX Optimus Prime. That had some splendid die cast joints. And then if we turn to the back of the figure, they've definitely paid attention to the back with the spinal detailing. Really amazing work. Even on the back of the arms, all the pistons. We've even got some of the butt plates here. All of the detail on the back is just something to behold. This figure truly looks amazing from all angles in my opinion. And then for the arms, also some lovely mechanical detailing on the sides, on the front, the fingers individually articulated, the thighs. These also are made of a die cast material. They definitely do feel cold to touch. And in there, loads of mechanical detailing. You can see that fantastic paintwork. The piston detailing here, the gears, the vents here for the shins. And then I think the feet look fantastic. You honestly wouldn't think this figure could transform if I handed it to you, because quite frankly, if someone gave this to me, I wouldn't believe that it could transform. Articulation for the figure, the head is on a ball joint, so it can look left to right, up to a great degree. You can see that he can look all the way up, and then also down to a great degree. The mouth is on a hinge joint, so it can move up and down. The arms, this is where things are slightly limited. There isn't as much articulation here as I perhaps would have hoped, but you can get them to hinge out to the sides. You can see that there is some loose joints there, which is a shame. They can rotate the full 360 degrees, as well as a butterfly joint inwards. However, you can't really utilize the motion due to this section here bumping into the front of Optimus's chest. We do also get a full 360 degree rotation at the bicep, double joints here for the elbows, so you are able to get a 90 degree bend of motion out of that. Full 360 rotation at the wrist. However, if you have the articulated hands on, you can see that they are rather loose. All of the fingers are individually articulated and are articulated at, I believe, 3 points. You can see that there are 2 points here, one there, and then the third one right at the tip. And all of the fingers do have their own hinge joints, so they can in fact all be splayed out. It is rather stiff to do, but you can see that they can all hinge out to the sides, so you can definitely spread his hands out. In terms of waist articulation, there is quite a good degree of waist articulation. So he does have an ab crunch. This can rock forwards and backwards. It's not to a great degree, but it is definitely there. There isn't really much articulation in terms of this whole assembly. It is mainly just down to this piece. And then this here can actually rotate. It is quite reluctant to do so, but you can see that it can rotate. So there is a waist joint. All of these pieces here are articulated so they can hinge out to the sides, and the legs can kick forwards that far to a great degree, and then back that far to a great degree. We also get a great range of motion here for the knee. This section here once again is alloy, So all of the main joints are definitely structured in a way which is incredibly robust. And then finally here for the foot, we do get ankle rocker joint forwards and backwards as well as side to side, and they can rotate 360. And we do also get a toe bend, which is not due to transformation. The transformation joint is actually here and it folds forwards. So this here is just solely for the robot mode. So overall for articulation, for a figure that looks this well done, for a figure that can transform, I think that it's fantastic. One thing that is also worth noting is that if you wish to have these eyebrow sections of the truck windows move, they can in fact do so on hinge joints, so you can flare those up if you wished or flare them down. However, personally, I prefer them in a more downwards configuration as it just makes the chest look a lot more complete. Moving swiftly on to accessories now, here we have the iconic blaster that we see Optimus use within the Bumblebee movie, and I think ToyWorld once again have done a fantastic job in the sculpt work as well as the paint application. Now in terms of special features, this does in fact have quite a few. So you are in fact able to articulate the handle section depending on how you wish to pose the figure, which I think is fantastic. However, there is also an electronic lights and sound effects feature, which I was really surprised about. So to showcase that, you simply just want to push this button here, and pushing it once, you will just get the same blast effect over and over again with a really vibrant LED. However, actually holding the button, it does cycle through quite a variety of different sound effects, and we also do get the LED function to accommodate that. So I do believe that those are all of the sound effects that this particular blaster makes. If you do double press the button, you do get one blast effect, and it will leave the LED light inside illuminated. I'm not entirely sure for how long it would leave it illuminated for. I do imagine until you turn it off, and in order to turn it off, you just push the button once and it turns off. But something really cool about this is that you don't actually have to swap the batteries out. If you do just remove the end cap of this, it does in fact come with a USB charging port that you can insert into this, and if you have an iPhone or any type of USB port, you can just peg this in and it will charge it up. Or it also does include a plug which you could use to plug into a socket mains, which I think is really cool as it just allows you to not have to worry about keep changing the batteries out on these. And it's a shame that they couldn't have found a way to have done that for something like the head. Talking of the head, however, though, we do get a set of two different batteries. So I believe that these two here are the batteries for the 3A DLX head, and these two smaller ones here are the batteries for the actual head that we use on the ToyWorld one. So that is great to see that it does in fact come with batteries, and the batteries in the blasters are fully charged upon opening this figure fresh out the packaging. In order to peg any of the blasters into Optimus's hands, I will only show you it with one blaster as it is the same procedure for them all. There is a tab on either side that will just peg into the slot, so you just want to align this up accordingly. I recommend perhaps collapsing the thumb down and then tabbing that into place, and then just wrapping the fingers around and solidifying that connection. But you can see that the wrist is rather loose, so won't hold it too securely, hence why they actually do pack in some non-articulated pistol holding hands so that you can actually get a firmer grip whilst holding some of the accessories. One of the larger firearms that Optimus comes with is this huge, almost overkill sniper weapon, and you can see that once again the paintwork on this is truly fantastic with the silver dry brushing over the darker plastic. I think that this looks fantastic, and here you've even got the tripod or the stand to actually rest this upon something. You could even rest it on the cargo boxes that this figure comes with, or you can compress this and just stack this up. Similarly to the electronic function that we got with the actual blaster of Optimus, this one too also has electronic lights and sound. So pushing this section here, you do get a blaster sound effect as well as the front barrel lighting up. Unlike the previous version though, I don't believe we get any other sounds. It is just the same powering up and then firing sound effect. And in order to actually get the LED to last and stay on this one, I believe it's the double tap of 3 times. And you can see here that it will stay illuminated. So super cool, and once again you can pop off the back and use the USB plug in order to recharge the battery. Freedom Leader also includes 2 smaller pistols, both of which are completely different sculpts to one another, and these are quite cool for just posing him in some rather more generic fighting poses than rather the type of pose that you'd probably pose him in if you used that gigantic sniper rifle that he comes with. But I think that the detailing on these two has been done really nicely. Once again, the handles are articulated so they can hinge back and forth. And with this one, you can in fact move the clip forwards and backwards, or the magazine, depending on your preference. There is some tabs and slots on these, however the instructions don't mention any places of where you can store them, and I haven't found a way to actually combine these weapons, but perhaps there is a way. If there is, I wish that the instructions did mention it, but nevertheless it's still quite a nice looking blaster. And then one of the final accessories that this figure comes with is this huge shield. Now this to me definitely takes inspiration from the Grimlock shield from the Fall of Cybertron video game, with the illuminated orange section around the side of the shield. We can see that we've got some fantastic sculpted in detailing here with that magnificent dry brushing, and you can see two clips here that do in fact clip onto the side of the arm, so just quickly demonstrating that. If you pull this section down, you do reveal two tabs there, so just aligning this up, you can just clip that into place, and here you have him wielding the shield. But you can see once again that that arm joint is quite loose, so you're probably not going to be able to pose this figure in too many poses with the shield. However, it also has some other features, so taking it here and splitting it, which is really surprising, you can in fact elongate these sections and turn this one into a giant axe. And if you wish to display it without the illuminated orange section, it can just untab very, very simplistically. So you can remove it and just have a more generic standard axe. And then the same can be said for the other version, so we can extend this one. This one is slightly smaller, but the same procedure still is retained here. Just remove it, and you've got a really nicely detailed axe. For a quick size comparison, of course I had to compare this new ToyWorld Freedom Leader to the Free Zero DLX Optimus Prime. Now personally for me, I still think that the DLX Optimus is more movie accurate and is more faithful to the on-screen movie appearance. However, of course, this version doesn't transform because no other company officially can make transformable figures other than Hasbro. But you can see that the ToyWorld version, I think, is a nice mixture. It's very accurate for the robot mode, quite accurate for the truck mode, and it does in fact transform. But if you had to choose just one and you were keeping it solely in robot mode, I would still opt to go with the DLX 3.0 version anytime at all. But you can see here that I think that they've done a great job just comparing these figures through a side perspective. You can see that they have truly done a mesmerizing job in actually making this figure transform. And then just comparing the backs, very, very similar. But I still just think that that 3.0 one takes it a lot further in terms of the faithfulness to the movie. But once again, this doesn't transform, and this figure does. Now, quite an unusual accessory that this new Freedom Leader comes with is actually an alternate head sculpt for the 3.0 DLX version. Now, I have no idea whatsoever why ToyWorld packed this in, but just demonstrating you how it can be swapped out, you simply just pop this version off, and you can see that we do have a neck which acts almost as if though sort of a plinth if you wish to not display it on the figure, and then just pop this one on. And you can see that it is a lot larger than the more streamlined look to the official 3.0 version. Personally, I'm going to be sticking with the official version. I don't really like this one. I don't think that the mouth guard matches the rest of the colour scheme of the figure, but the batteries are operated in the exact same way. So we once again do have the LED electronic feature. And if you have this figure and buy this one, you can definitely utilise this head sculpt if you so choose. For a comparison between the new ToyWorld Freedom Leader next to the 3A DLX Bumblebee, personally I think that the scale here works quite nicely. You saw the actual 3.0 DLX Optimus is the same size as the Freedom Leader, so the scale here is more or less exactly the same. And personally here for me, I think that the scale works just as well here as it does with the previous comparison. So that was my review on the highly awaited and anticipated ToyWorld Freedom Leader Tactics Waistcoat. If you haven't guessed from this review already, I definitely think that this newest release by ToyWorld really lives up to the expectation and anticipation that has been building for roughly 18 months. This takes one of the best Optimus Prime designs to come out for years and gives us that masterpiece format that fans have been craving. This isn't an oversized or upscaled version of the Studio Series Optimus Prime, nor a slightly modified version. This is a completely different take and an entirely brand new engineered piece, and I definitely think that it warrants from that. It looks phenomenal in robot mode, almost pixel accurate to the on-screen movie appearance. The fact that you can swap out the pieces to make it in an Earth mode or a Cybertronian mode to match either of the looks that we see in the movie, I think is fantastic. He comes with some great accessories. Not only does he come with his faithful blaster that we see him use, but he comes with some extra weapons that we never even saw him wield on Cybertron, such as the enormous sniper, the shield that can separate into the axe, and various other pistols. I think that they're all great. I love the articulation on the figure. I wish that it was slightly more improved where the arms are concerned, and whilst the transformation is involved, I definitely don't think it's as complex as initially expected. Truck mode definitely gets the job done. The front of the truck truck and the actual cab section is fantastic. Where I think it slightly falls short with though is the rear end of the vehicle. It really just feels as if though ToyWorld couldn't think of a way to actually engineer the legs so that they looked right in robot mode, so they just left those off to the side. But personally, I think that it's a fantastic compromise, and as with all of my figures, as long as they look phenomenal in robot mode, I have no problem with that whatsoever. This is an incredibly high quality product. The plastic feels great, the die cast, the overall weight of it feels amazing, and the fact that you can recharge some of the weapons so that you don't have to swap out the batteries is great. We also get these containers here which can store accessories or just be used for a dynamic display, and I think that they look phenomenal when posed next to this figure. So with all that being said, I highly recommend this figure, and if you are in the market for picking one of these figures up today, then I definitely recommend that you should check out the links in the description box below, where you'll be taken to Shozy's store, who is one of the few retailers to actually have this figure currently in stock and available to ship as soon as possible. He also does have some various other pre-order listings for a version which is not express shipping and is actually still in the pre-order stage, as well as a pre-order for the deluxe version. I hope you enjoyed my review. If you did, please let me know down in the comments section below, and be sure to let me know what you think of both the figure and the review also. Until my next video, I thank you for watching, and I'll see you then.